All right, so chapter 1082 just came out, and it was a fantastic chapter. I really like what Oda's doing, where he's like, showing all the different factions leading up to this big event in Egghead. He's having things happen like Blackbeard getting rid of Kid or getting rid of Law, Shanks getting rid of Kid, one shots and off screen fights, and he's building up every single faction. Even the Marines. I mean, he's actually doing the Marines dirty with this chapter, to be fair. He's putting the Marines on the back foot. Which, to be honest, as I've said, I've been running with this theory for about 4 or 5 weeks with Blackbeard killing Emu and bringing in a whole new era of chaos. And I'm going to say it once again, every single chapter seems to be building towards it. Because you're building towards the Marines, you're building towards the pirates having the upper hand in this big war. And then all of a sudden, Emu's going to have to do something that's going to shift the balance again. And then what's going to happen? All of a sudden, when Emu's like fighting Luffy or doing something really big, you're gonna have Blackbeard come in and just straight through, and he's gonna bring in this massive pirate overturn, and he's gonna become the most powerful being in the story so far, and we're gonna get that big final few chapters with Blackbeard as this all powerful character, and I think it's gonna be great. Obviously not maybe all powerful. There's going to be some nuance to it. Of course, it's Oda. He's a fantastic writer, but that's the basic outline of it. And I think that's pretty. It's like an upscaled version of Marineford, right? I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Yeah, and you can see that with Oda building him up in the previous chapter, making him seem actually competent. Because although we put him quite high, we don't actually know he's there because of the title of Yonko, right? But the fact he was able to take out Law means he's at least top 10. And obviously we had him high up. I think I had him 8th or something. So this definitely shows me that he deserves that position, if not higher. I do agree with a lot of people where he will be top 1. I know a lot of people have him top 1 right now. I feel like he needs another power up, but maybe I'm wrong. But that's the one thing. We got the spider guy from NS Lobby. He was captured by this old man, which I really like to see actually, because we get to see that Boogie is not exactly great. He's putting bounties on Marines, but also it's helping people. It is actually helping people, despite what the motive actually is. He's helping people who need to help their families live, and it's actually doing a better job of the system than the bounty system is. And I think that's fantastic, to be honest with you. I think that's a great thing to have, great thing to be doing. And although it's all leading to what Boogie does in this chapter, where we get a bit of lore with Boogie, right? Because we obviously know Shanks knows something and he wants to take his time and, avenge and just take his time and find a new era, right? Whereas Boogie thought what Shanks was doing was disrespecting Roger. He wasn't trying to do what Roger wanted, what Roger needed to be done. And he felt disrespected. So it gives more character to Boogie. And he's like, and I did the same thing all these years. He's feeling like he did the same thing all these years. He didn't do what he needed to be done. He was a coward. And he's trying to be more, a better person now, or fulfill Roger's legacy, right? And I really like that about Boogie. And I hope they do something wonderful with him, to be honest. I hope he gets like a boost in like his strength somehow, because now his will is more concrete. Because we know will is so important in One Piece. I hope he does actually become a seriously strong character. Maybe not majorly strong, but enough to where it's considerable, at a considerable increase. Like maybe he can take on Jinbei or something. You know what I mean? And then he actually has some, weight to his name. Something like that. Maybe because the way his will, like how Sanji's gonna get conquerors, in my opinion. Where when he's fully confident in himself, he's fully accepted who he is, the mistakes he's made, and he's like, all right. And then he actually becomes more powerful. And obviously he's backed up by Crocodile and Mihawk. But another thing with this chapter, which I'm sure everyone loves, but I was absolutely hysterical about it, right? Mihawk is like, oh, you expect us to go up with the likes of Red Hair, Straw Hat, and Blackbeard. And the fact Straw Hat's being mentioned in these conversations, Luffy being mentioned in these conversations, is great, because we get to see how far he's come in the story so far. But I just love it, man. Everyone's realizing what happened in Wano. Wano had such a big impact. And it's just the small stuff, bro. And I love it so much. I love the impact it's had and how it's going to continue to affect the story in the future. Which will make the loss at Egghead seem really, really good. Because to me, if he does lose at Egghead, we're slowly building them up as such a powerful powerhouse. And to put the Marines back on top with him losing would be a brilliant idea. he doesn't have to get decimated. He might even be saved by Kuma again, and that's how they end up at Elbath. You know what I mean? Because Kuma's important, Bonnie's important. We haven't even talked about Bonnie for like 5 or 6 chapters. We're gonna get a Kuma backstory at some point. I think what might happen is the Reverie flashback will come out again. We'll come out of the Reverie flashback, and then we're gonna come into a Kuma flashback. It's gonna literally meld in together. We might even get 2 in 1 to make it much easier. Like half of let's say the flashback is roughly 10 chapters, right? We get 5 chapters for each of the flashbacks, and they kind of meld in together because Kuma is such an important character in the Reverie event. I don't know. I'm really excited to see where it goes and what they do with it, to be honest with you, because I think this is going to be one of the best like flashbacks in One Piece. Obviously, Odin's was fantastic. You have to Odin's was 15 chapters, and it was an amazing flashback, and not a lot's going to beat that. But I hope and pray one of the flashbacks in the coming arcs is definitely, hopefully, beating that, because that was one of Oda's best works, to be honest, that Odin flashback. And obviously, but I personally prefer the Robin flashback, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. But the Odin one's still fantastic, objectively, as I've said before. I just think Robin's flashback always gets me crying, you know what I mean? So, Odin doesn't really do that. Odin gets me hyped, but I think the fact every single time I watch the Robin flashback, it gets some sort of emotion out of me. I've got to kind of respect that in some shape or form. But I have to say, though, I'm hoping this Reverie flashback lives up, though. I don't know what's going to happen, because I know we obviously have to get Emu revealed somehow. That's how they're going to reveal Emu. We have to get Cobra's death confirmed or deconfirmed. We have to figure out how Vivi got on Morgan's, where Morgan's actually is. There's a lot to figure out in this flashback, but I'm just wondering, how it's going to play out. Is it going to give context to what Kuma's doing? Because it seems like the whole thing about Kuma right now is that he's reprogrammed to get the Marijoa. And I think maybe Dr. Vegapunk has something he needs Kuma to do at Marijoa, so it's better for him to be a slave on Marijoa. But to be honest, I feel like Vegapunk's keeping Dragon out of the loop, and I don't like that. And I think, what I think's going to happen here, right? Dragon's going to find out about this stuff at Reverie, and he's going to be like, this is important stuff, and Vegapunk kept me out of the loop with this. And I don't know if he knew it or if he didn't, but we need to confirm this, because if Vegapunk's been keeping me out of the loop with all this information, we can't be trusting him anymore with our own information. So then he goes to Egghead to figure that out, and that's how he ends up where he ends up at Egghead. I think this is going to be a really interesting moment, to be honest, to build up to Dragon being in Egghead. And I think it's going to be great as well, because with this flashback and a possible Kuma flashback, it's pushing that away, pushing Dragon showing up to the end of the year. And I think that's going to be a perfect moment to end the year, is have Dragon show up at Egghead, in my personal opinion. If you push it back far enough to have it just end the year with Dragon appearing or Dragon doing something at all, I think it's going to be great, personally. I don't know, maybe a lot of people don't have high Dragon stocks. I had him top 1 last year, and I still kind of believe that, but I want it to be more factual-ish this year. I want Dragon to be an absolutely busted lad, but he just does nothing, man. But, alright, so I actually want to talk about the Reverie, or not the Reverie, the Revolutionary Army captains, right? Abhiru, man, that just looks like, Alir from Fire Emblem Engage. It just looks like that, but the Tony Stark Shulk arm is really, really cool. Am I just going to call it aesthetic? Am I just going to call mechanical arms now the Shulk arm? Lad, to be fair though, that's why I haven't been doing much. Future Connected's been so good, or Future Redeemed has been so good, Xenoblade. But I'm really excited to see where this goes. I think the captains, obviously, they're introducing them all now, and we're getting introduced to other factions of the Marines. So it's obviously going to be a big conflict between the two factions. And I'm interested to see how they're going to play that out, because obviously we know it's a big battle royale, but I think the two factions are going to clash, and we're going to have a massive fight. So who is Sabo going to fight? Because realistically, if we're having this big fight between the two factions, it would make sense for the two leaders to fight each other. So if we have Sabo fighting Akainu, either dragon's gonna fight the Gorosei or either dragon's gonna fight Emu. And at that point, you're kind of like, if that can't happen, if that doesn't happen, then Sabo has to take command of the revolutionaries to make it make sense for him to fight Akainu. Because I've always said he has to fight Akainu, right? It has to happen because, obviously he has to get a stronger flame than Ace to overcome, Akainu's magma, right? That has to be part of the plot line. And then we have blue flames. Also, and oh man, blue flames, bro. They're just so cool, and I think it would work a moment really well, like a father son Kamehameha, where Ace appears in the background, and it's like it goes through Akainu's chest, and he's gone, and that's how it's gonna work out. And then obviously in a Akainu flashback, like it's building up to some crazy stuff. I just don't think it's happening this year. I think the it's gonna start at the end of the year with Dragon showing up. That's how I think it's gonna happen. I think it's all gonna be built up for the rest of the year. It just feels like it. You know what I mean? It feels like everything Oda's working towards is gonna take like another 12 or so chapters to finish. And I can't remember how many chapters are left, but there's usually like 35 chapters a year, maybe 36, sometimes 40 if we're really lucky. But I feel like we're going on a break for Golden Week this week or something. I don't know. I think so. Because I was listening to the translator for Shonen Jump talk on the One Piece podcast, I believe, and he was saying that this week in Golden Week we'll have a chapter, but the week after that we won't have a chapter or something like that. It won't start, like the big war will not start this year. I think it's going to be the first chapter to start 2024, which I think is really good because we seem to be getting more out of One Piece than we initially thought. We thought it was going to wrap up a lot quicker, but Oda seems to be taking his time and using his time more wisely so we can achieve that 3-year benchmark. And I'm excited. You know what? I think it might run for an extra year. I think we're going to get 4 years because it feels like he might get too excited and he'll just enjoy his last year. And I think that's going to happen. But I wonder where they're going to go with this. Like, I hope Boogie gets some sort of power up. I want him to actually be a contender. I think it'd be funny if we go from him being, a funny guy with no powers to actually being a contender for the Pirate King spot. You know what I mean? And obviously we're building up everyone for Luffy to lose or something to happen to Luffy. But I think my main hope right now is that we go into a Reverie flashback. Because if we don't go into a Reverie flashback, I feel like this whole moment is going to be undercut. Right? Because the whole chapter was building to this and Sabo coming back was building to this. And I think it's going to be perfect timing, as I said, for Dragon to appear at the end of the year. If we have a Reverie flashback for about 5 weeks, then maybe we go back to Egghead for a bit. We get Bonnie focus that leads into a Kuma flashback, and then for the rest of the year, it's building up to this final war. I just think that's how it's going to go. I think it's the best way to do it. Obviously, I'm not a writer, so Oda could give me a kick to the balls and show me a better way to do it, which he probably will. And I'll be waiting, Oda. You know what I'm saying?